So in the previous video, we looked at how to get data, right? Start getting data from the website openweathermap.org, right? So we looked at one example where we got the data for the city London, right? And La Paz also. So we stored the data in the variable La Paz, right? In the variable results, right? Right, so let's continue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the data for a bunch of cities, right, and then ingest it into MongoDB. So again, the standard stuff, we start with client, and then the database, we're going to call the collection weather collection, right? So I've already run these cells, right? So you can, I'm just going to show you the output, because then if I run this again, it updates the database again. So I just want to keep what I have right now. So again, we can get the data for La Paz. Let's store it in a variable called La Paz, right? So this is the output for that. And then we can also we can insert this into our collection, the weather collection, right? So if you insert this, well, we can check using the find one method whether it's inserted. You can see that now one point, I just want to make one point, is that if you type like dot, right, and then tab, see, again, we've seen this before, you get the options that are associated with the collections, right, or the methods associated with this. So find one again is one of the methods, and this shows you the inserted document, which is again the city La Paz, has information about the minimum temperature, maximum temperature, quite a lot of information that you can use to get different details about the weather of that city. Now let's get a list of cities. Now I executed this part where I got this file from the website city.list.json. So this has data about different cities. So you can go ahead and run this. The code, make sure you're running the code as we're discussing. So when you run this, it's going to download a file. You can use the software, I think 7-zip. 7-zip is a free software that you can use to unzip this, right? So you can use 7-zip. If you're using Linux, it's easy to unzip the GZ file. But if you're using Windows, 7-zip is an option. So this is just gonna give you unzip the file, and then you can use that. So this part is just where another way to download this. I think this should be enough. This is probably an extra piece of code which I was trying. So anyways, once you get the file, I stored it in a folder called data. You can store it wherever you prefer. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this file, and then read it and store the information in a variable called cities.json, right? So remember in the beginning we imported the module called JSON, right? So the JSON is basically a collection of libraries that or commands that you can use to read JSON files in Python. So what this does is just it loads the JSON file into this variable. So we have then that if you want, you can take a look at cities JSON, right? So this is just gonna be a big file with the details about all the cities, right? So once you have that, you can if you want, you can take a look at you can use indexing to take a look at city that you want. And this type is a list. The length is around like 200,000, more than 200,000 cities, right? But we're gonna focus on one particular city, right? So we're just gonna focus on Chile. So let's use the filter. So the filter function in Python is just going to filter out. So you can see that there are a lot of cities in this file in this variable. So what we can do is we can filter out the city that we want. So that's the purpose of the filter function. So we're going to apply a filter, and then we're going to only extract out the cities or the countries, sorry, Chile, and the cities corresponding to Chile. And so what this is going to do, if you run this, you get this output, right? So this these are, you can see all the countries. Country is Chile, right? So these are all the cities for Chile. And if you want, you can use typical Python indexing to get the name of the cities. So this I've used over here, list comprehension, to extract out the name of the names of the cities of Chile. And these are, you can use this to extract out the IDs of the cities and so on. So once we have that, so now we have the name of the cities, right? Now we have information regarding different cities of Chile, and so if we defined this function earlier, right? So if you want the information for a particular city, the information regarding the weather and so on, we can use the get data function, right? And then we can use that data to query, to perform different queries. So now let's this is just one city, right? We have a lot of cities in Chile, right? So so what we can do is we can write a for loop, right, that loops over the city names, right, and then gets the data for each city. And then this is just to make sure you don't get any errors, right? If you get an error, the function will, the loop will complain, right? So we have this exception in Python used over here, but this is the main part, right? This is the rest is to make sure that you don't get any errors. So this is where we're using the insert one method to basically store the data for that corresponding city, right? So the result variable has the data for that city, and then you're basically storing that. So this takes a while. I'm just using the first 60 cities, right? So this is just gonna if you do the whole thing, it's gonna take a long time. And that actually, there's a limit to the number of requests you can make from the website. So if you do for all of the cities, it's going to take a while, and then it's also going to stop because you cross that limit that the website allows. So what we can, a way over that is, what you can do is you can use the time.sleep function to make your program sleep for 1 second. And so that does not so if you do that, if you uncomment this, then it's going to be fine. But 60 cities is fine. It's not going to create any problem, so we can just stick with that. So if you count, use the count function, it counts 61. I think we added La Paz at the beginning, that's why it's 61, but this loop is just for 60 cities. And then once you do that, you can now this weather collection.find, you can use the weather collection.find function to basically get information about a city. So if we remove this, right, and then run this, you can see that the weather collection.find is an iterative quantity, so you can basically look at all the data that is now stored in the MongoDB collection, right? All these documents now correspond to different cities. So now you have we have basically built a database, a MongoDB database of different Chilean city, 60 cities. That's what we chose, and then this has information about the weather. So now we can perform a lot of we can do a lot of data analysis now with all this data that we have. So we're just going to look at a few. In the next video, we'll look at in a few ways to query the data that we have in the MongoDB database.